Hi everybody, this is the TaoTao 110 Chinese four-wheeler, and we wanted to do a review on this to give you an honest review and be honest with you about what this thing's all about. You can pick one of these things up new for $800. If you compare that to a Honda, it's about $3,000. So if you keep that in mind when you buy one of these, it'll help you when things go wrong with it. Now, some of the good things about this four-wheeler is the engine and the look of it. I'd say after, I think this is a 2015, I'm estimating that. We got this new for our daughter, and it says 12 and under can't ride it, but she is now too tall for it. We'll show you what she looks like on it. It fits more of a guy like this. This is a 5-year-old, and he rides it all the time. But what's cool about these four-wheelers is it comes with LED lights, a really bright front light, and they look really cool. It's got really cool plastic. It's got a disc brake in the back. It's got a lot of options that you wouldn't find on a Japanese one for way more money. But the downside is everything but the engine. Oh, I forgot to mention the suspension is pretty good too. Other than that, everything else is disintegrating off this four-wheeler. We have lost the muffler just because it broke in half. The rack broke with my daughter's friend on the back. It's gone. The bracket holding the muffler is gone. It needs to be welded back on. It needs a new muffler. The chain guard disappeared, the plastic. Multiple bolts have come loose on it, and it's kind of a running shell of what it used to be. But the positive is it still runs. But if you're not willing to do some work on these things, I recommend not buying one, because we're on the first time we had to replace the carburetor. My son Nick ran through some mud, and it got just a little wet, and it wouldn't crank again. Turns out it was the carburetor. It went bad again, so it's on its third carburetor. Another thing is, this is a 110 four-wheeler, and it looks smaller than, I think the engine has a lot of power, and it runs better than, I wouldn't say runs better, but it's a lot more rich from the factory. There's not a lot of regulations maybe, and it starts a lot better than the Japanese ones. And it runs pretty good if you keep the carburetors on them. These things come with a pull string. You can, the string ripped on that, but you can pull this out if you're running behind your little one on there. It has a pull string, but it's made for 12-year-olds. Kind of confusing. Also, it had a remote kill switch. These are all awesome features, but they don't work anymore. I took everything off because it was malfunctioning. It's gotten to where I had to disconnect. You even have to turn it off with this. The key no longer works anymore. It's just funny things that happen with it, but if you just take all the stuff off of it, it'll keep running because the engine is pretty solid. I think it's a clone of the Honda four-wheelers, so it seems to be pretty good. And it has been ridden pretty hard. The chain adjuster, not the best. The chain adjuster bolts broke on me when I was adjusting. New chain adjuster bolts. And the chain looks like it needs to be adjusted a little bit on this. The suspension is not really comfortable, but it seems durable. Nothing on that is broken. Suspension and engine is what you need to remember on these. But it's no longer what it was when we bought it. Alright, the bottom line is you get what you pay for with these Chinese four-wheelers. They're flashy. They come with a lot of options that the other ones, the other more expensive ones, don't have, but you're not going to have it very long with the TaoTaos. There's all kinds of brands, but with the TaoTao, you're not going to have it. The engine and suspension are still holding up strong. Bearings seem to be in place, but everything else is just flying off of it. So it's going to be a shell of it. I wouldn't be surprised if the plastic's not on here next year, but it'll probably still be running. If you don't want to mess with these things, like I said, 3 carburetors and just countless time figuring out, like the ignition coil went out as well. They're not hard things to figure out, but if you don't want to mess with that, get a Honda or something like that, Yamaha. Don't go near the TaoTao, the Chinese four-wheelers. But if you, we paid $300 for this, and it's been worth it because I've just kind of kept it going, and the kids have had a lot of fun on it. So if you can get one for $300-400, even $500, that looks good. Hey, it's probably worth it. But don't expect it to be what it is when you bought it after 3 or 4 years. It'll probably still run if you give it some time, but there's going to be something every month or so that's going on with it. And I'm going to show you what this thing can do. I'm going to have a 7-year-old jump some hills, and I'll show you how it sounds. Like I said, the muffler is about off of it, but it's still running. So we're going to show you what it can do on the dirt hill. Yeah. If you can get me.
Okay.
As you can see, it sounds really good. It's a good engine. The suspension seems to hold up to some abuse. Faster. Do it again. Go faster. Yeah, TaoTao 110. It's a junker, but it's fun. The TaoTao 110. You'll have a lot of fun with it, and it is better than a one-wheel bicycle.